Okay, I'm going to talk to you about sex-linked traits for a second. So a sex-linked trait is some kind of genetic thing that's only carried on either the X or the Y. And most of your sex-linked traits are carried on the Y. Not the Y, the X. So the Y has a couple, but because the Y is so little, it really doesn't hold that many traits or genes. So the X is the one that really carries the majority of them. So because of that, a boy is more likely to exhibit sex-linked traits than a girl is. And the reason is because, let's say a girl gets one bad X. It's okay because she still has one good X to compensate. So the bad genes on this most likely won't show up because she has the good one to compensate for. If a boy gets a bad X, then he doesn't have another X to compensate for. All he has is the Y. And the Y and the X do not carry the same genes. So a boy, he has no other choice but to exhibit those traits. That's why boys get screwed when it comes to sex-linked traits, and they're more likely to exhibit them, and girls are less likely to exhibit them. Like in color blindness, for boys, it's 1 in every 10 boys, and for girls, it's 1 in every 100. Okay, so sex-linked trait Punnett squares are a little bit different than Mendelian Punnett squares. So I gave you an example here of color blindness. So color blindness is recessive, and to be normal is dominant. So if I have a mother, every time I talk about a mother, I have to put her 2 X's, and every time I talk about a father, I have to put his X and his Y. So my mother, we're going to say that she is heterozygous. So I'll write her 2 heterozygous letters up high close to her 2 X's, but I need to have all of these, her 2 X's and her 2 N's, to represent that she is a girl and what her genetic traits are. Then I have the father, and the father is going to be a little bit different than the mom because he only has 1 X, so he's either going to be colorblind or not colorblind. So we'll say that he is not colorblind. I only write the N on the 1 X. His Y will have no letter up here. There'll be nothing there. So you'll just leave it blank. So when I write the dad, I'll write it just like that, where I have an X and his 1 N and his Y. And then for the mom, I have to have her 2 X's, her 1 big N, and her 1 little n. And then I have to fill it in. The N's and the X's are all important, so I have to write them all. Okay, so if I look at this, all of these are going to be girls, and these are going to end up being boys. So when you do ratios, it's going to be a little bit different. So let me erase that for a second. Okay, so if I'm looking at the Punnett square that we just did, there's several things I can ask you. I can ask you what the number of kids, how many kids they had would be colorblind. I could ask you how many kids are going to be normal, how many normal boys will they have, how many colorblind boys will they have, how many normal girls will they have, and how many colorblind girls they will have. So that's a lot of different questions that I could ask you. So you have to make sure that you're looking at the right thing whenever you answer this. So when I'm asking about all the kids, I look at the whole Punnett square. So if I'm looking, I'm going to say that this is a normal kid, this one is going to be a normal kid, this one's going to be a normal kid, because they all have at least 1 dominant N, giving them the chance to have normal sight. I only have 1 kid on here who's going to be colorblind, and it's going to be this kid right here. So he only has 1 little N, and he has a Y, so he doesn't have a shot of replacing anything. He's going to be straight colorblind. So if I ask what the chances of them having a kid that's colorblind is, it's going to be 25%, because I have 1 boy who could possibly be colorblind. If I want to know what their chance of having a normal kid, that would be 75%. All the kids who get 1 big N will be normal. If I'm talking about the boys, if I'm talking about the boys, I can only look at the boys. I can't pay attention to these girls at all. So I have to pretend like they don't exist for a second. So we scratch them out, and I'm going to erase that because so I want you to see all of it. But pretend you can't look at the girls. You can only look at the boys. So I have one boy who's going to be colorblind, and I have one boy who's going to be normal. So my percent of having a normal boy is 50%. Because I only have two boys, and my percent of having a colorblind boy is going to be 50%, because out of the two boys, one of them is colorblind and one of them is not. For my girls, if I'm looking at girls, these boys can't exist at the moment, so they go away. And if I'm just looking at my girls, my percent of having a normal girl is 100%. Out of my two girls, they are both going to be normal, and I will have 0 colorblind girls. Okay, so we're going to do another example of sex linkage. So rickets is a sex-linked trait. Rickets is where you have a vitamin D resistance and your bones don't develop properly. So we're going to have a mother, and we're going to say that she is a carrier for rickets. So when I say that she's a carrier, that means that she looks normal, but she carries the bad genes. She carries the rickets genes. So she would be considered as heterozygous. So she is a carrier. You can't have a dad that's a carrier because they either have it or they don't have it. So this dad, we're going to say he has it. So we have a mom who's a carrier and a dad who has rickets. So they have a possibility of making a daughter that's heterozygous, so she's going to look normal. They're going to make another daughter, and she's going to be homozygous recessive, so she will have rickets. They could make a son that has a capital N, so he would be normal, or they could make a son that has a lowercase n, and he would have rickets. Okay, so again, so I can ask you what the total number of any kid having rickets. So out of all of the children, no matter if they're boy or girl, this kid would have rickets and this kid would have rickets. So that's 2 out of the 4 kids. So there's a 50% chance if they have a child, their child will have rickets. But if I'm just asking about sons, my sons are right here. There's only 2 sons. One of the sons does not have rickets, and one of the sons does have rickets. So again, you have a 50% chance of having a son who has rickets. If I'm asking about daughters, there's 2 daughters. One of the daughters is normal, and one of the daughters has rickets. So there's also a 50% chance of having a daughter who has rickets. So sometimes the percentages can all come out the same, but you still have to look at girls individualized from boys. So make sure that whenever you're doing it, you're only looking at girls, you're only looking at boys whenever they talk about sons or daughters.